Kenan Yildiz. I feel like he's a player that I haven't spoken about as of late, and he's easily my favourite Juventus player, only because I love a player that gets me on the edge of my seat. Like Kenan Yildiz, when I see him in the starting 11, when I see him get onto the ball, the first thing that comes to mind is I don't know what he's going to do next. And don't get me wrong, at times he's made the wrong decisions, and at times he's left me speechless. He's left me just there, sat watching the TV saying, wow, what a player, what a star, what promise, what potential. Juve have got a gem on their hands. And I feel like this season, when it comes to Kenan Yildiz, he started off hot, on fire. It began to fade away. Then he picked up some form once again. But for me, my biggest frustration with Kenan Yildiz is I feel like he's been treated like a utility player. One day on the left, one day on the right, one day down the centre, one day on the bench. You're not even coming on when the team is losing. Now, before I give my own true assessment and my opinion on the Kenan Yildiz situation, because there are rumours that if Juventus don't get top four, he is one of their most prized of assets, and he is a player that can generate a lot of money, that can generate a lot of profit. So before I give my opinion, it's only right to share with you guys what Fagioli had to say on his situation at Juventus. After the performances against Leipzig and Genoa, Motta no longer considered me. When you head onto the pitch without confidence and you feel the heaviness of training and perform worse. If you come on for 3-4 minutes and then somebody tells you have to come on and do better, something inside of you snaps. Now, I completely agree with what Fagioli have to say, and I'm not trying to relate it strictly on what happened during his time at Juventus. I feel like there's a lot of politics behind Fagioli's minutes at Juventus and why he left. There's a lot of things that we probably don't know, but I just want to speak on the whole young players playing for top teams, not getting the opportunity, and how with young players, you have to accept as a fan, there's a pro and there's a con. What is the pro? The pro is they're raw. They're fearless. They're eager to impress. They go out there and they perform and they give you 110%. Now, what is the con? Young players are very inconsistent. Young players are very underdeveloped. Young players are underexperienced because they haven't played the game. They need to grow in a position. They need to begin to feel comfortable, to feel at home. On top of everything, they have to be in an environment, and this has to be an environment created by the coach, the coaching staff, the entire institution, all of the people that work there, the players. They need to be in an environment, in a camp where they know, I'm young, I will make mistakes, but don't hold me accountable. Don't be too harsh on me. Give me the opportunity to go out there and express myself, and in return, I will learn from my mistakes. So, when I say things like this, it reminds me of a famous quote by Arsene Wenger. Young players need freedom of expression to develop as creative players. They should be encouraged to try skills without the fear of failure. Now, Arsene Wenger, for me, listen, we all know the way he revamped that Arsenal team, the amount of young players that emerged under his management, under his coaching, the amount of players that developed and grew under his wing and continued to have amazing careers outside of Arsenal. This is where I look at Fagioli, this is where I look at Kenan Yildiz, and I just tell myself, is this Juventus environment the best for young players emerging onto the scene? Now, of course, top teams, they're used to success. They're used to having the best of the best. And sometimes when a young player pops onto the scene, they can't accept the inconsistency. They can't accept the mistakes. Some fans aren't willing to stand by a young player and guide them through that rough patch and accept at times this young player will cost you a game. At times, this young player might behave in a way which isn't the most professional. It's all about staying calm. It's all about staying composed. It's all about having the senior players that can step in and carry the mantle. And when I look at Kenan Yildiz's situation at Juventus this season, I see a 19-year-old player that's had 30 starts this season. Bearing in mind, he only started 9 last season under Allegri. He's got 10 goals and assists. And for me, he's a big game player. Like, he's contributed in goals against Milan, Manchester City, Inter, PSV. 10 goal contributions in 30 starts. On average, that's a goal contribution every 3 games. Now, fair enough, that's not amazing. But for a 19-year-old, in his first season, like where he's been a consistent starter in periods, 10 goal contributions in 30 starts, it's very impressive, especially when you bear in mind it has been a dysfunctional Juventus team. There have been good moments and there have been bad moments, but it's an environment where you can see a lot of players have struggled for so many different reasons. Some players can't handle the pressure, some players just aren't good enough, some players are struggling to adapt to the Serie A, the intensity, the physicality, coming from a foreign league, and on top of everything, you've got a new coach that plays a completely different style of football to the manager they once had in Allegri. So it's a dysfunctional team. It's a team that's still learning, growing, getting familiar with one another. To put up 10 goal contributions in 30 starts for a 19-year-old, for me, it's impressive. For me, it's the sign of a player heading in the right direction. So having said all of that, my biggest frustration this season has been, why has Kenan Yildiz, in my opinion, and this is just a question that I have for you guys. He's a player that's shown I can perform all over the attacking final third. I can play on the left, I can play on the right, and I can play in the centre. Has anybody outperformed Kenan Yildiz on the left-hand side in order for him not to play on the left-hand side? The answer is no. Has anybody outperformed Kenan Yildiz in that roaming number 10 in order for him not to play in that position? The answer is no. Has anybody outperformed Kenan Yildiz on the right-hand side? The answer is no. For me, when he's played on the right-hand side, come the 90th minute, I've sat and told myself, he's the best right winger Juventus have. When he's played in that roaming number 10, only 2-3 games, I've turned around and told myself, he's the best number 10 that Juventus have. When he's played on the left-hand side, I've turned around and told myself, he's the best left winger that Juventus have. Now, this isn't me petitioning for him to start week in, week out, because when it comes to young players, it's all about controlling their minutes. Don't play them week in, week out. Sometimes take them away from the spotlight. Sometimes take that pressure off their shoulders. Sometimes turn around and say to them, listen, you're going through a rough patch? Don't worry. Sit on the bench. Learn from your mistakes. Watch your other colleagues. Watch your other teammates. Watch how they can handle the pressure. The thing that's frustrated me the most is the fact that no matter who Thiago Motta has played, they haven't outperformed even some of Kenan Yildiz's worst performances this season. And I feel like in the second half of the season, Kenan Yildiz practically became the right winger of this team. When in the summer, there was a right winger which was signed, which has played the majority of his career on the right-hand side, which is Nico Gonzalez. It's a simple tactical switch, which in my opinion will elevate this Juventus team. Just putting players in their more suited position. Putting players in the area that they've played in the majority of their career, the area that they've grown and developed in the most. Nico Gonzalez, Fiorentina, right winger. Kenan Yildiz, the majority of his football in the Juve shirt has been on the left. He built such a lovely bond with Cambiasso. I've always said, Kenan Yildiz, Dusan Vlahovic, they've got such a lovely relationship. I saw it at the beginning of the season against Verona. I saw it at the beginning of the season against Como. Even as of late, they hardly play together nowadays, but whenever they are on the pitch, you could see they look for one another. They give and goes. Fair enough, at times it's inconsistent. Fair enough, at times it's the wrong decision. Two players that understand one another, and you can clearly see two players that like one another. There's clearly a friendship there, but they're two players that bring the best out of one another. And once again, I will mention the start of the season, the goals against Como, the goals against Verona. Who was creating those opportunities for Dusan Vlahovic? It was Kenan Yildiz. Who was aiding Cambiasso, and who was Cambiasso aiding Kenan Yildiz? So for me, I'm now sat telling myself, this is a kid, in my opinion, that should be the face of the project. If somebody wants to turn around and say he shouldn't be a guaranteed starter because he's still growing, I completely understand. But the guaranteed starter should be better than Kenan Yildiz. At the moment, the guaranteed starter left wing is Nico Gonzalez. He is not better than Kenan Yildiz. At the moment, one of the two guaranteed starters in the roaming number 10 is either McKennie or Coop Miners. Neither of them this season have shown they can play in that architect role better than Kenan Yildiz. The player on the right-hand side, whether it's Conceição, whether it's Timothy Weah, neither of them have shown they're better on the right-hand side than Kenan Yildiz. So I'm sat here now completely baffled as to why he's hardly getting any minutes in games where Juventus need goals against Atalanta. Games against Fiorentina. He doesn't come on against Fiorentina. For me, that was bewildering. For me, that was shocking. I was sat telling myself, this game needs some energy. It needs some dynamism. It needs a player that can take the game to them. For him to not even enter the pitch, it's questionable. It's baffling. I feel like that's the best way to put it. It's baffling. And of course, now you see the reports, which is He's unhappy with Motta. There's a breakdown in communication. As a young player, you need to go under the manager's wing. He needs to guide you through your rough patches. He needs to humble you and mature you when you feel like you're on top of the world. And I feel like Motta with Kenan Yildiz this season, as much as I am a Thiago Motta advocate, I just feel like he hasn't handled him too well. Like in periods where he was doing well, he got taken out of the picture. In periods when he wasn't doing that best, he was taken off. As a young player, you need to grow in a position and play there week in, week out. When every single week, 1 minute you're on the right, 1 minute you're on the left, and in the second half you go into the number 10, there's no consistency in your role. You need consistency in your role, in your position, in your responsibilities, in order to master them. Like, let's just look at ourselves. We go into work. If every single day your manager said to you, today you're working in the sales department, then you're working in the finance department, then you're working in the marketing department, then on Friday you will work in IT. Fair enough. You're picking up good experiences from all over the different departments, but are you a specialist in any department? Can you turn around and say, I am a specialist in IT? No, you work there once a week. Are you a specialist in marketing? No, you work there once a week. Become a master of one department. Become a master in one role, in one position. Once you master it and you show you've got this broad skill set, then you can go and play elsewhere. As a young player, you need consistency in your minutes, in your responsibility, in your position. And what helps young players grow more than anything is playing around the same players. And that's why I keep banging on about the relationship he had with Dusan Vlahovic, the relationship he had with Cambiasso, which is now completely taken. It's now completely taken out of the picture. How has Dusan Vlahovic done? He doesn't even play. How has Cambiasso done? He hardly plays, and when he does play, he doesn't look the best. At the beginning of the season, I felt like Juventus had something really nice going on, especially down the left-hand side. And it's now reached a stage of the season where we hardly see that left-hand side. If you're new, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to let me know what you think in the comments. And I will catch you guys on another one.